speaker is Jan van Loosdrecht. After receiving his PhD in chemistry at Utrecht University, he was senior scientist at Sasol for 12 years, dealing with all aspects of FT catalyst development. And we've enjoyed reading his excellent papers on the subject of cobalt catalysis and slurry phase operation. He was an industrial fellow at Eindhoven University for 2 years in the Netherlands, and he is now Senior Chief IP Technical Advisor at Sasol. The title of his talk is Optimum Crystallize Size and Distribution for Cobalt FT Catalysts. His co-authors are Michael Datt and Clovis Versace.
Good morning, everyone. I'll take you back again to cobalt Fischer-Tropsch synthesis. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Bert Davis with this very prestigious ACS award. Also on behalf of Sasol in South Africa, I'd like to congratulate you. We've been working together with Bert Davis on numerous topics for the last 10 to 15 years. I think one of the highlights is that Bert was a member of the heterogeneous catalysis board at Sasol for a period of about 8 years. And during that period he has visited South Africa on a regular basis. And I think we've seen evidence of that last night as well. We've seen numerous wildlife pictures during the dinner last night. And, I think that's for very nice images. On a personal level, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me. It's an honor to be here, and I hope that my contribution will add to the success of the symposium. As I said, let's go back to cobalt Fischer-Tropsch synthesis. I'll be talking today about the importance of the cobalt crystallite size, as well as the distribution of these crystallites over the support material. But this topic is very much related to some of the topics that Professor Krijn de Jong and Dr. Sonet have presented previously. I'll first take you back briefly into an introduction, although most of us know, of course, Fischer-Tropsch synthesis extensively. Then I'll show you a little bit of literature about the use of organic additives during catalyst preparation. And finally, I will go to some of the results that we have achieved at Sasol, where we followed a slightly different approach, where we added carbon on the alumina support prior to the cobalt impregnation. First of all, Fischer-Tropsch, as we all know, is a very important part of the GTL and CTL processes. In this particular picture, you can see a photo of the Oryx GTL plant in Qatar, which is a joint venture between Qatar Petroleum and Sasol. On the right hand side, you can see the air separation units in white. Then further to the left, you can see the autothermal reformers, where we make the synthesis gas out of the natural gas. And on the left-hand side of the photo, you can see the Fischer-Tropsch reactors, the slurry phase reactors, where all the action happens. And what's not shown on this particular photo, but you can see it in the scheme, after the Fischer-Tropsch part, of course, we have a hydrocracking step, where we convert the waxes into diesel, which is the main product of this particular plant. Of course, you don't have to start with natural gas. There's more carbon sources that you can use for Fischer-Tropsch plants. You can use coal, biomass. And the final products don't have to be diesel, like in the case of Oryx. You can make petrol, wax, or chemicals. We at Sasol like to believe that Fischer-Tropsch starts becoming a global technology. At the moment, of course, we have 3 Fischer-Tropsch plants in South Africa, either based on natural gas or on coal. two plants of Sessel, one in Secunda, one in Sesselberg. And of course the Petro SA plant at the coast in South Africa. Then of course Shell has a GTL plant in Malaysia, based on their fixed bed cobalt technology. And nowadays, of course, Qatar is the GTL capital of the world, with two commercial plants, one from Sessel and one from Shell. The first one that started up in 2007, and the latter one in 2011. And we hope that finally the plant in Nigeria that's still being constructed will start up by the end of this year or early next year. From a Sessel point of view, we are very excited about two projects that we are involved in at the moment. We're busy with the FEED, or basic engineering, for a plant in Uzbekistan, where we collaborate with the local government as well as Petronas, where we're going to build a 38,000 barrels a day plant. And of course, recently announced a big plant here in Louisiana, where we intend building almost 100,000 barrels a day plant, also based on the cobalt slurry phase technology. If we talk about all these Fischer-Tropsch plants, of course they need Fischer-Tropsch catalysts. If we look back at South Africa, the plants over there are based on iron technology. The low temperature plants is using a precipitated iron catalyst, mainly making wax. And the high temperature Fischer-Tropsch plants is using the cold fused iron catalyst. Of course we make mainly petrol and chemicals. If we look more at the more recent Fischer-Tropsch plants, the Sessel ones are slurry based, using a cobalt and alumina catalyst. And if we look at Shell, they use a fixed bed Fischer-Tropsch technology, and we believe they use cobalt and titania catalyst in these plants in Malaysia and Qatar. For the Sessel cobalt catalyst, we have built dedicated cobalt manufacturing catalyst plants, one in the Netherlands in collaboration with BASF, and one in South Africa using the same technology. So we talk about supported cobalt catalyst. This is just a easy diagram for a catalyst like that. Of course it's supported. The support is often modified with a structural promoter or modifier. Then of course the cobalt is present as distinct cobalt crystallize. And often reduction promoters are present in this catalyst, assisting with the reduction of the cobalt oxide to the cobalt metal. And of course what you want is you want these cobalt crystallites having the correct cobalt crystallite size, and they should be distributed as even as possible. This is a picture that we've seen before. What is the effect of the cobalt crystallite size? What we've tried to do over here is we've combined all the recent literature on this topic, with probably being the highlight the work from the group of De Jong. And what all these publications together show is that there is a critical cut-off value for your crystallite size of about 6 to 8 nanometers, which you should not go below. So how can we get to a catalyst with these kind of characteristics? So I'd like to go back to a little bit of literature on one way of getting a catalyst with an optimized crystallite size. And that is the use of organic additives or organic compounds during the cobalt nitrate impregnation. And there's quite a bit of literature on this topic using all kinds of different organic compounds. And I just want to show a couple of them. First of all, work by Kodakov in France. They used sucrose, which they added to the cobalt nitrate during impregnation. And they used that to make silica-supported catalyst, and they clearly showed that the sucrose had a positive effect on the cobalt crystallite size, and in that manner they got an increased catalyst activity. They also reported that the calcination or the decomposition of the cobalt nitrate occurred at a slightly higher temperature due to the presence of the sucrose and became exothermic, which could of course be a problem if you start designing large catalyst preparation plants. Ellis and co-workers reported on the use of mannitol for the same purpose. They made alumina-supported catalysts, and they showed with TGA that if you don't have an organic compound present, you get quite a slow decomposition of the cobalt nitrate, but if they have mannitol present, they get a very excessive decomposition in a very short period of time and getting all kind of foaming in their catalyst preparation unit. The effect of mannitol was that the crystalline size decreased and they had a higher activity, although of course you could be worried about this foaming in your catalyst preparation units. The group related to Stat Oil reported on the use of ethylene glycol. In this picture they increased the ethylene glycol from the right to the left. And they determined the cobalt crystallite or the cobalt oxide crystallite size, and you can see it decreases from about 16 nanometers to about 4 nanometers for alumina supported catalyst. And they explained this effect by an increased wetting ability of the cobalt nitrate solution. Similar work was done by Koizumi. They also used ethylene glycol, and they actually showed a similar effect. Decrease in the CO3O4 with an increased ethylene glycol content, and at the same time they see an increase in the conversion or the activity of the catalyst. And they believe that these ethylene glycol cobalt mixtures have so much of interaction that it prevents sintering during the calcination step. One last paper from the literature is also by Koizumi. They reported on the use of nitrogen-containing organic compounds, and you can see over here if you go from a catalyst, silica-supported catalyst that doesn't use the organics, to the ones that use these nitrogen-containing organic compounds, you got an activity that was about double than the catalyst that did not use them. And again, they showed increases in the crystallite size. And they also showed that the calcination, which happened at about 450 Kelvin for the catalyst that only contained cobalt nitrate, increased about 100 degrees when the organic compound was present. And they believe that there is a kind of a complex formation between the cobalt ions and the organic compounds that would delay the calcination and then give you a rapid kind of auto-combustion decomposition. Then what we have done at our laboratory is we used a slightly different but related approach. Instead of adding the organic additive during the impregnation, we deposited a certain amount of carbon on the alumina support prior to the cobalt nitrate impregnation and tried to study the effect on the crystallite size as well as on the distribution of the cobalt particles over the support. So we start with a alumina support, we do the carbon deposition, then we do the cobalt nitrate impregnation with the aim to get to 20 cobalt on alumina. Then we do calcination, reduction, and in our case we like to do wax coating of the reduced catalyst because it's pyrophoric, and if you want to do your Fischer-Tropsch testing in a slurry bed reactor, you need to protect your catalyst prior to loading. So first, if we briefly look at the carbon deposition on the alumina support, what we did is we used acetone and we passed that in an argon flow over the alumina support at elevated temperatures, and then the acetone decomposed and deposited carbon on the support. Then we took the temperature down and activated this material in air to create oxygen and OH groups on the carbon material, with the aim to assist in the interaction with the cobalt nitrate solution. And then, of course, depending on how much acetone you pass over your alumina support, you can vary the carbon content of your support material, and in our case we vary between 0 and about 12 mesh%. Of course, one of the effects of adding carbon to your support is that your pore volume is changing. And the important with impregnation, of course, is that you know your pore volume curve very well. Because if you add too much of cobalt during the impregnation, the cobalt will deposit on the outside of your support material, and you will not get a very homogeneous distribution of the material. So in this case, we saw clearly that the pore volume, when we start with about 0.5 milliliters per gram of the original alumina, it decreases to about 0.35 milliliters per gram. So you have to adjust your impregnation procedures if you want to add the maximum amount of cobalt during your impregnation step. Then we looked at TGA, how stable this carbon layer is, because we wanted to activate it to give these oxygen and OH groups. And if you try to burn off the carbon in the absence of cobalt nitrate, you can see it's rather stable. You have to go to temperatures in excess of 500 degrees before you burn it off. So activation at 250 degrees will not burn off the carbon that you have just deposited on the alumina. Then after we have done the carbon loading on the alumina material, we do the cobalt nitrate impregnation and we study the calcination. If you look over here in black is the nitrate or the NOx release of the cobalt nitrate calcination in the absence of carbon, and you get a rather broad decomposition pattern of the cobalt nitrate, which is endothermic. And then if you look at the red line, that is the one during which we have carbon present. You can see the maximum has shifted to higher temperatures, so the carbon-cobalt interaction delays the calcination to a certain extent, but then when the calcination starts, it really burns or decomposes the cobalt nitrate, and the calcination is finished much earlier than for the material that did not have carbon present. If we then also look at this carbon-coated material, and not only focus on the NOx, but we also look at the CO2 that comes off, and obviously we see that the NOx and the CO2 come off at the same time. So it's really a reaction between the carbon layer and the nitrates that cause this accelerated decomposition of the cobalt nitrate. What is the effect of the carbon on the catalyst? Here we can see the XRD work that we have done on the calcine catalyst, and you can clearly see that when you start with a catalyst that doesn't have carbon, you've got about 12 nanometer cobalt oxide particles, and the size of those particles reduced to about 8 nanometers in the presence of this carbon layer. So the carbon layer has a positive effect on the crystallize size. Of course, we're not interested in calcine catalyst. We need a reduced catalyst to be active for Fischer-Tropsch. So we reduce this calcine catalyst, and you get the typical PPR patterns where you can see the two-step reduction of CO3O4 to COO and from COO to cobalt metal. And if you look at the peak maxima of the TPR, we actually saw a bit of a decrease or an easier reduction of these materials that were prepared with the carbon layer, which was a little bit unexpected because you make smaller cobalt crystallites, so you would actually expect a slightly more difficult reduction, but that's not what we see. So apparently the interaction maybe of the cobalt and the carbon prevents maybe a much further interaction of the cobalt with the alumina support. can we maintain the improved crystallite size when we do reduction? Because we've seen a decrease in the oxides, but of course we want to see a decrease in the size of the reduced cobalt particles. And in this case we've done hydrogen chemisorption on the reduced catalyst. You can see in the pink or the purple line that the crystallite size of the reduced material decreases when you use this carbon. And at the same time, from the same measurements, of course, you can see an increase in your cobalt metal surface area of the reduced catalyst, pointing towards hopefully a more active catalyst. So now we can achieve crystallites in the size range that we want. The next step, of course, is to see are these crystallites distributed nicely and even over your support material. For that reason, we've done dark field imaging, and on the left-hand side, you can see a typical picture of a cobalt and alumina catalyst that was prepared by only aqueous cobalt nitrate impregnation. And in white, you can see the cobalt crystallites, which are a kind of agglomerates or grape-like features of relatively small cobalt crystallets that sitting closely together. So on a picture like that for that. And then when we start adding the carbon, we see two effects. We see a reduction of the crystallite size, but at the same time, we see that these grape-like or agglomerates start to disappear, and the cobalt crystallites start spreading out much more evenly than in the case where you don't have these carbon layers present. And you end up with a catalyst with smaller cobalt crystallite sizes, which are distributed more evenly compared to the catalyst that does not use this carbon. And of course, we tested these catalytic materials in our micro slurry reactors at relevant conditions, 220, 20 bar conversions of 50 to 70%. And in this case, these particular runs we only did for 1 day. And you can clearly see that the activity of these materials has increased dramatically, depending on the carbon level. It increases between 40 and 80%. And it's also clear that you only need a little bit of carbon to make the first step in an improved catalyst activity. These runs were only done for, as I said, for 1 day. We of course did also runs for a little bit longer. In this particular case, these runs were done for 5-6 days. And you can see that the activity gain that we had initially is maintained for at least in this case 5-6 days. We compared over here a catalyst with a relatively low amount of carbon, close to 2%, with the catalyst that didn't have any carbon, and we see a substantial increase in the catalyst activity of 40%. But we've also seen from previous published work that if your crystallite size is too small, your selectivity might be affected negatively. And over here again, I want to refer back to the work from De Jong, who showed that your methane selectivity increases dramatically if you go below 5-6 nanometers. In our case, if we look at methane and CO2 selectivities, we did not see any serious effect on it. There's of course some scatter in the data, but we stayed above this limit of 6 to 7 nanometers where you did not see an effect on the selectivity. If we now try to plot the Fischer-Tropsch performance as a function of the crystallite size, and first note this range is of course very small, but within that range you can see that the activity increases nicely with the smaller cobalt crystallites. And if you plot it as turnover frequency, you can see it remains, or it is not affected by the crystallite size, so we stay above this critical limit of 6 nanometers. And again, if you plot that together with the published literature on this topic, then you can see that we more or less are at this border case where you start seeing the negative effect of crystallite size on activity. And luckily with this work we stayed just above that order. If we look slightly more closely at the picture with the turnover frequencies, of course this is a nice picture, and all these materials were made on the carbon coated alumina, and in this case the carbon crystals were distributed nice and homogeneously. The outlier in this picture is the material that was made on the non-carbon coated alumina, and in that case we have these agglomerates, and possibly we see two effects over here. First of all, you've got larger crystallites, and secondly you might get some enhanced sintering of this material, and that's why this point is probably lying at a lower level than expected. Which brings me to the conclusions. And I think if you want to get a catalyst with an optimized cobalt distribution, you have to look at two particular aspects. First of all, you have to get your crystallite size correct, as close as possible to the cutoff value for your particular system. And secondly, you have to make sure that your crystallites are distributed homogeneously, so you don't get this enhanced sintering. And one way of doing that is using the carbon coating technique that we have shown over here. Another way, of course, is all the literature on organic additives in this regard. I'd like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Beautiful, beautiful work, beautiful presentation. Two questions. First of all, what is the carbon viewing? How is it affecting the mechanical strength of your support, which is a very important parameter for a slurry process? And second, from first principles, one would say indeed carbon is an ideal support for FT, in view of the metal support interaction being more or less optimal compared to the oxide, so you have all the problems of mixed compound formation and so on. So when are we going to switch to carbon as a support for FT?
I think both questions are related. First of all, what we have seen, if you keep your carbon level low enough, it does not have any impact on the mechanical properties of your support material. And in this case, of course, we focused on alumina, but there we don't see an effect of this carbon. If you go to very high levels of carbon, you might get very exothermic reactions and a huge release of CO2 and NOx, and in that case you might get an effect on the mechanical strength of your material, so you have to balance that. Second question, whether we would go to carbon supports. I'm not sure whether carbon supports are strong enough in any case. This is one of the issues what keeps a lot of people away from carbon supports, especially for slurry bed applications where the strength of the catalyst is of course very important.
About removing water, well, creating a more hydrophobic surface.
Removing water from your oxygen supports prior to impregnation.
Yeah. Is there any effect on the water effect? The deleterious effect of water, is there any benefit to having carbon?
You mean if you keep the carbon present and then maybe during Fischer-Tropsch you don't have this negative effect of water anymore?
Well, you might alleviate it.
In this case, you don't have any carbon left after catalyst preparation, so we won't see that effect. Then you have to do your preparation differently. In this case, during calcination, the carbon is burned off together with the nitrates.
Yes. Question.
So, do you have any accurate reflection about the phase structure of the material?
Sorry, I can't hear the question.
Sorry. Do you have any accurate diffraction data structure of the tool you have to use in this house?
No.
Structure,
We don't have that on this material.
There was one more question.
You normally think of carbon being less interactive than the oxide, yet because you got the smaller particles, it would look like it's interacting more with cobalt.
You're talking about the interaction. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe to activate the carbon layer prior to the impregnation, create these oxygen and OH groups on the carbon surface, which might assist with the interaction with the cobalt. But yeah, it's a good question. We're not completely sure how that works.
Okay, I found
Not long enough to see any cobalt agglomeration in your reaction.
During fission synthesis, we do run, of course, longer than what I've shown over here, and we do see some sintering in any case, because you always get some sintering.
I think we're running out of time. I have questions. I know King had a question. Can we wait until maybe the break? Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, our final speaker of the morning session is Chris Marshall